The following episode contains details of an attempted suicide. If you or someone you know has had thoughts of suicide or expressed thoughts of suicide, please do not hesitate to call the Suicide Prevention Hotline by dialing 988, or you can text TX to 741-741. There are counselors standing by 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are also counselors who speak Spanish. Listeners' discretion is advised.
What do you do when life throws you into the depths of despair, leaving you feeling lost and alone? For Bella Young, the answer lay in a remarkable journey of resilience, healing, and empowerment. A pioneer in therapeutic outdoor education in Australia, Isabella has dedicated her life to helping those struggling with mental health challenges through the transformative power of nature. But her personal journey took a harrowing turn when she was widowed, pregnant, and left to raise her young son alone after a tragic loss. Isabella's path has taken her across 3 continents, through the wilderness, and into the depths of spiritual exploration. From escaping messianic cult to thriving in the natural beauty of Kauai, Hawaii. Her story is one of survival and empowerment. As a published author and advocate for natural health, Bella shares her insights on overcoming trauma, escaping mind control, and reclaiming one's sovereignty. Today, I am honored to have Bella Young on LifeJack, the Resilience Podcast, to discuss her journey and the powerful tools that she offers for healing and self-empowerment.
Sometimes life gives us lemons. Sometimes it gives us lemonade. Other times it gives us something entirely out of left field that makes us say, WTF. But no matter what obstacles come, there is most often a way out on the other side, and we are once again victorious. My name is Dr. Rowe, and you are listening to my podcast about resilience. Every guest shares a tragedy to triumph story to give listeners like you the inspiration to push through every single day. Listen now as my next guest shares how they were life-jacked.
Hi, Bella. Welcome. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Dr. Rowe. Thank you very much for that beautiful introduction, and I'm really looking forward to sharing what I've learned from my experiences with you and your audience, and thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, most definitely. Now, Bella, you were a member of a cult. So I have to ask, what enticed you initially about this cult? And of course, I'm sure you didn't know the cult at the time. So just what enticed you about them? And when did you realize something was not quite right?
Well, I'll just do a little bit of backstory. I was raised by a militant atheist. I grew up very arrogant and feeling superior to anyone who believed in God. And I used to spit the word out with all the hatred I could muster. And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s when I met a man who became my first husband, and he gave me books to read, and we did meditation courses together and tantra workshops, and he opened my mind to there being more to this world than is perceived by the 5 senses. So that started me on my spiritual journey, and that's become basically my sole purpose really since that time. And we were together for about 7 years. We had a son, and I was 3 months pregnant with our second child when he went off to work one day, and I got a knock on the door from cops and a neighbor about 10 o'clock to say that he died on the job, and that ended my dreams of having a family, living on the land self-sufficiently. It just sent me into this tailspin of hell. And I really didn't want to be alive. The only reason I stayed alive was because I had a child and I was pregnant. So I decided I had to keep going. And I had to sell the farm and looked for somewhere to live for years. I was just like a gypsy, really. Nowhere felt like home, and I just felt completely lost. And I did this shamanic workshop called Dying to Live, which ended up, I had this huge out-of-body experience, and that's where I was instructed to go on learning with this person who I hadn't met before. I'll say his name one time. His name's Louis Dompré. And so I called him up after the retreat and told him what had happened, and he said, come meet me in New Zealand. He was putting on this Millennium event back in 2000, and then after that event, he had come to start training with him in Laguna Hills in California. So I thought I had met my guru, because I'd been to India a few times and I understood the guru and disciple relationship. So I thought I'd met my guru and I was entering into his ashram, and that really wasn't the case at all. But it took me a long time to realize what was really going on. But things seemed pretty, from pretty much the get-go, it was hellish, because he has a narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, he believes he's the second coming, for goodness sake. So, he's extremely arrogant and everything has to revolve around him. He controls everyone, what they eat, what we do with our time. And, it was high control right from the start. So he had me sort of in that way spiritually, that we had sex one time to consummate the marriage, and I got pregnant and had a daughter. So he also I was sort of trapped because we had a child together, and he promised, we were going to have a family. And of course, that was one of the things I really wanted to, was to have a family. So I got hooked in well and truly. Oh, I missed the part we got married. Sorry. I'm trying to include everything. Yeah, we got married, and I ended up, living with his wife in this cult. And
Wow.
yeah, it was a nightmare. And my family knew I was in a cult. My parents went along to see a cult expert early on when I left Australia, within the year. And they didn't say anything. No one said anything to me. So one of the things that I'm speaking up about now is to let people know that they're in a cult. Some people say, it drives them further in. But if you don't know you're in a cult, how do you know that to get out? You don't realize that you're being mind controlled, and there's no escaping the influence, whether it's a family or a relationship or a political party or a sports team or, a government. You don't realize that there's cult tactics being, applied. You can't escape.
Wow. And so I have to ask you, because like you said, it's hard to escape, but you did escape. So what led you to gaining the courage to escape? And then were there any key lessons you learned from that time?
Yeah, well, it gets even more horrible. So I had 2 older children from my first marriage, and then I had another child, and the children were treated very differently. My youngest daughter was venerated. I mean, literally, she was put on a throne and worshipped as a deity. And the other 2 children were like the ugly stepsisters, really punished a lot for disobedience and given, they had to write lines, they had to pick up trash, and they had to be grounded. So they were punished a lot. And it was really quite a hellish environment for all of us. And my son came home from school one day, I think about 8 years or 7 years into living in the cult, and he was really upset and he didn't want to talk about it. So I said, why don't you go to bed and we'll talk about it in the morning? But in the morning he was gone, which was really unusual for him. And we ended up calling all his friends, looking around for him and reporting him missing by the end of the day, because it was clearly it was way out of character. And that was a Saturday, and the next day, the cult leader sent his assistant up to the hills behind the house, where my son was found with a fatal neck wound and the kitchen knife next to his body. And the cult leader blamed it all on me, said that my son had taken his life because he'd realized he was gay, and that was unacceptable to me and unacceptable to himself, which was absolutely heinous lies. It was just... What I know now is that it was a staged suicide. and my son was taken out because he was being groomed, and he was going to expose the cult leader as a pedophile, a groomer, a rapist, a con man, and so he was taken out of the picture. But that sent me on just another spiral of wanting to die. But once again, I had children who I felt had already been through enough, and so I needed to stay around for them. So I went from breath to breath for months. I really didn't want to live. And then I went to see this man who had at one point been the cult counselor. And so I went to see him. I hadn't seen him before, but I walked in the door and he said, "I knew you'd come to see me. You know you're in a cult, don't you?" And I said, "No, I don't know I'm in a cult. I thought I was in an ashram with my guru." And he said, "Go home and Google cult characteristics," which I did. And sure enough, there they were, charismatic leader who is an arbitrator of truth and controls what all the group members do, think, say, eat, how they spend their money, use these brainwashing techniques, mind control techniques, gaslighting, psychological operations. And so it was just like check, 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 check. So what I learned was that cults are real, and I was in one, and my son there I knew I had to get out. And that was not made easy, because like I said, he used my children. He said he wouldn't let me take the children. He wouldn't let me leave wasn't supposed to go within an hour of where he lived. And he also, from a spiritual level, said that if I left him, I would be turning my back on hundreds of thousands of years of soul evolution, because that's what it had taken for me to get where I was, to be, there with the second coming and helping him with his ministry. And he said that my screams would resonate throughout the universe when I realized that I'd made that mistake and I'd turned my back on God, basically. So I didn't leave straight away. I still had, still agonizing through the decision, because I understood that if I left, I would still be taking my issues with me. I knew that would be the case. But he said no one else knew me like he knew me, and he was the only one who could free me. But I'm pretty sure that now I look back on it, the only reason he let me go, and he actually let me go out of the state, I left to Hawaii, was because he knew we'd have another death on his hands. Because I did not want to live anymore. And I couldn't figure out how to get out, because I didn't really have any external support. But I don't know what it was actually. I think it really was just, I knew that if I didn't get out, I would take my own life.
Wow. Now, of course, the things that we hear about cults, they've kind of sensationalized it, or they have, meaning the media, they've made all these different documentaries about it, and it almost looks, sort of a sense of pageantry, but it is a really serious thing. I know people know about Jim Jones and Jonestown, and people may even know about the Zavidians and David Koresh out of Waco, Texas. But in your opinion, what are the most effective ways for someone to free themselves from cult programming and essentially mind control? I know you said it's very, very difficult, because that's really what it is. It's you said a narcissistic person who is able to really control your mind. I'm glad that you had someone, close to you who was able to kind of snap you into reality to say, hey, you're a part of a cult. But, what can someone do if they believe they're in a cult, or if they believe that someone else they know is in one?
Well, the first thing is to understand what a cult is, understand the tactics that a cult leader or an organization that functions as a high control group, understand the tactics that they use. And then you can identify, well, is this happening to me or the person who you're concerned about? So you can identify, oh, yes, this is a cult. And then there comes the challenge to extract yourself, because if it's a religious cult, then there's also that spiritual aspect, which is almost because it deals with such a fundamental level of trust in God, in the universe, in yourself. So to realize that you are in a you have been taken advantage of, then you need to forgive yourself and, understand that you have been taken advantage of. You have, at a really profound level. So there's those basic steps to extract yourself from. You really just have to get out. That's how I see it. There's no negotiations, no half in or half out. It's best to go, like they say, with people who are in relationships with narcissists, because that's what you are. If you're in a cult, you're in a relationship with someone with a narcissistic personality disorder, the best thing to do is to get out. And then the healing can start, because otherwise the games can still go on. And what I found was the best way to clear myself of the cult programming was to expand my consciousness by using lots of different tools and techniques, like, meditation. So, coming back to center and just being in a state of mindfulness and peacefulness and openness. And then the most powerful one that I found is to practice sun gazing, which is watching the sun rise or set every day and receiving the light of the sun into my eyes, because the light is information. It's life optimizing information. It's not just some random whatever. It's actually, it's essential for our optimizing our mental and physical, emotional and spiritual health. So I've been practicing sun gazing as often as possible for years now, and that's really expanded my consciousness, helped me free my mind from false belief about myself, about the world, and it allowed me to see a bigger picture, so that I was able to see that what I experienced in the cult was what's happening on a global scale to humanity. There's gaslighting being used, and there's mind control and brainwashing that happens through technologies that are keeping most people stuck in a perceptual prison, like a mind prison. There are a lot of ways that are keeping human consciousness limited, so that the bigger picture can't be seen and understood, and keeping people distracted and in fear and all that. So I found that sun gazing was really important, and also just being connected to nature, being in nature as much as possible. Also, I've stayed directly connected to the bare feet as much as possible. I don't really wear shoes very often, I stay directly connected to the earth. I'm receiving the earth energy, because Earth's just a giant battery, not just that it's a giant battery. So we need to be connected to the earth. There's no way we can experience optimal health, whether it's physical or mental, unless we have a direct connection to the earth to receive that energy. What's helped me stay strong and clear-minded and grounded is my direct connection to the earth, and then receiving the energy of the sunlight, and being around, using crystals and rocks and trees, because they're all like nature is giving. If nature is giving life force energy, yes, okay, there are times when those energies get taken away, but generally the energy that's coming from nature, from the sun, from the stars, whatever, is life force energy. So we can be fortified by that energy, that goes on to increase our resilience and our fortitude and our perseverance and our willpower. So I've basically just done my best to surround myself in nature. I star watch, I moon watch, I cloud gaze, whatever it is. I spend a lot of time in the garden. I have plants inside my house. I listen to the sounds of nature. All those things, all those practices have helped.
So I do want to ask about the sun gazing, because of course we just want to make be safe. And so exactly how do you do sun gazing? Because I'm assuming it's not directly when the sun is at almost high noon and you're looking right into the sun, because you would damage your eyesight, right? So
You kind of start with that. Start with that.
Right. So let's kind of share really what sun gazing is and what is the safest way for a person to do sun gazing.
Okay, well, this is not a no pain, no gain practice. It's a really powerful practice, so it's best to start very slowly. and simply face the east, face the rising sun as it's coming up above the horizon or the buildings or whatever, and with a softened gaze, allow the light of the sun to enter your eyes, and do that for like 5 or 10 seconds to start with. And then if it hurts, stop, and then just build really gradually from there. So just like add 5 seconds, every other day or whatever, until, you can sun gaze for a little bit longer than that. And it's not a competition, because obviously you can receive all the information and whatever you need instantaneously. It's not about trying to get the most light that you can. It's important to be as relaxed as possible, because when we're relaxed, that's our most receptive state. So we can receive what we need from the sun and just from the universe, or the air, the ether, when we can receive mostly when we're in a relaxed state, what it is that's going to optimize your well-being. And then at the end of the practice, to give thanks. That's really important, to express gratitude for what you've received, and then then go about your day. And you can do sun gazing at the end of the day too, when the sun's setting. And you can also receive light through your eyes from when the light shines on the water. When the light shines on the water, it's all twinkly. It's sparkly. Yeah. Right. You can look at that, and that will give that sunlight into your eyes. You can gaze at the moon, because that's reflected sunlight, starlight. You can receive the light that shines through prisms, that rainbow light, any natural light, like candlelight, if you gaze into a candle, or firelight. All those sources of natural light have life-optimizing information. They can easily be taken in, and of great benefit.
Now, of course, throughout the conversation, you have mentioned the importance of nature in your healing journey. I'm very connected to nature. My favorite place and ambiance that I love to be in is at the beach.
Yeah.
How did spending time in nature contribute to mental and emotional well-being? I know what going to the beach does for me, but for the listeners out there, help them frame what nature really can do for you.
Nature will optimize your being, and it will do that in whatever ways that you need healing, or it's individualized medicine. So there is the physiological effect, balancing it electromagnetically, because we live in this chaotic sea of electromagnetic frequencies, and holding cell phones and indoor lighting and dirty electricity. And so we have our own very subtle frequency, because we are electromagnetic beings. And that's so easily disturbed by everything else that's going on, like I just said, all the chaotic frequencies. So returning to nature, bare feet on the ground, will bring us back into balance. In fact, there's no other way. I suppose you could use grounding equipment or whatever, but there's no other real effective way to return to, electromagnetic balance than being in nature. And then there's the receiving the life force energy that creates enthusiasm and motivation, vitality, and those positive feelings. It gives that joie de vivre, and we want to get out there and live life. And then there are things like the appreciating beauty. Just appreciating the beauty of nature is uplifting. Creates the release of all those feel-good hormones, serotonin and dopamine, that comes from being in nature and just being in awe. Or even just looking at small things in nature, like watching an ant crawl or a bird go about its day. Those sorts of very simple practices are what the body can restore itself and rebalance and reboot with just the natural beauty. The sound from nature also have healing benefits, whether it's water running or insects chirping, and these are all available online. You don't have to go anywhere. I remember when I lived in the city, I would have the sounds of nature playing, and that helps to calm the nervous system and bring the body back into balance. And Yeah, they're the main way. And then, like I said, I reckon nature is balm for the heart, salve for the soul, and it like a poultice for pain. That's just my experience of having spent a lot of time just being outdoors.
Now, you've written about the need for protection from bioweaponry. Can you elaborate on exactly what that means and how people can safeguard themselves?
So, in my definition, bioweaponry are all the weaponry that's being used against humans because we are under attack and we are being assaulted in so many different ways in order to disempower us, keep us sick, keep us ignorant, and keep us uninformed and enslaved. And so the bioweapons that there are so many of them, but it's just simply they're what attacks the human brain, the human body, the human mind. So I'm including chemtrails, which are chemicals that are sprayed in the air that affect our everything. The heavy metals that stop optimal brain function and cause all sorts of physiological problems as well as land on the earth and get into plants and all that cycle. So there's the chemtrails. There's also technologies that are used like televisions, cell phones, computers. They're all extremely disadvantageous to humans. They might give us more information, but in terms of strengthening us and our bodies, they're very debilitating because of the frequencies, because of the images, the symbolism, the programming. They're actually powerful devices of mind control. I've heard it being called concentration camp technology. So there's that whole area of bioweapons, and a lot of those technologies are being used in what's called fifth generational warfare, which is what we're all subjected to now. This whole idea of was the Third World War going to break out or whatever. Well, it's already broken out, and it's fifth generational warfare, which is warfare on the human mind and perception, altering our perception, steering our thinking, creating groupthink. And so there's the technologies that do that. There's also things like ultra-processed foods, fast foods and all that have a very extremely damaging effect on the human body because they create inflammation, but they also affect the brain and how we think. And they almost eliminate the ability to be able to think critically and to think clearly. And the other one to stay protected is to keep our personal vibration as high as possible.
So I'm glad that you mentioned about raising your vibrational frequency and keeping it high as possible. So first off, what is your vibrational frequency and how does it relate to overall health and resilience?
Well, everything vibrates. Everything, there's nothing is at rest. This is one of the principles of natural law. That's another important thing to understand, is that there are laws that are in place in this universe that they've been kept from us, which keep us extremely disempowered. But one of them is the principle that nothing is at rest, everything vibrates. So that's all. We're actually a vibrating entity. It's every little cell, every group of cells, and so that gives off energy, and our energy that we give off affects our health. So if we're at a low vibration, then it's easy for disease to set in. Whether that's cancer or some kind of mental health issue or whatever. But if we're at a vibrating at a high frequency, it's less likely. They're not saying that it would never happen, but it's less likely that diseases will set in and that will be affected by external influences that want to take us down or keep us sick or suffering or whatever. And so that's important as an ongoing practice. And it doesn't mean that we, always stay in love. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. That's not. It's important not to be down on oneself if there are feelings of sadness or anger or despair or grief or hopelessness come up, because there's a lot of shit happening out there it's really challenging to acknowledge and face. So our way of keeping our vibration high is to express the emotions well, not necessarily as they arise, because it depends where you are, but just let the emotions move through in a way that doesn't affect anyone else. So, go scream in your car or into a pillow or into a towel, run, exercise hard. There are lots of ways to release those, what you could say, like negative emotions, that it's important to allow them to move through so that generally we stay in a, high vibratory state.
So I have to ask you, because of course, this was a podcast about resilience, and you actually speak about building resilience, which makes you a perfect guest for this show. What are some daily practices that you recommend for cultivating resilience in one's life?
So this goes on from raising my vibration, raising one's vibration, because this is what some of the things I do every day, and it builds resilience as well. It's like a side effect of that. And so sun gazing, which I've already mentioned, bare feet on the earth, or if you're in a city, you can have bare feet on the concrete or bricks there. It's conductive, so you can still get the energy of the earth that way. Touch trees, touch plants, touch outdoor pets, carry crystals, touch rocks. There are ways that we can receive that energy, like I said, that don't necessarily involve being on the earth. But ultimately, if you can get your feet onto grass, or the optimal one is walking barefoot on the beach. If you can do that as often as possible, then that's life-changing, really. And then the other things that I do, I make sure I eat living foods that have the highest amount of biophotonic light. Because the reason why we need to get into the sun is to receive light and information, also to receive photons, because our body uses photons at a cellular level to create energy and to set up all these processes of making hormones. We really need the light. We can receive the light also through the food that we eat. So I sprout my own sprouts. I think that's the optimal way, and so anyone can do that. You don't have to be even, you don't have to have a garden or anything, but sprout. And then I usually pray that those sprouts have the information that's going to optimize my health, so that when I eat them, I'm getting personalized medicine. And then I eat, because I'm in Hawaii, so I eat at least one kind of tropical fruit every day, because fruit has, especially tropical fruit, because it's seen in the sun, has the most amount of biophotonic energy. And then greens. We really do need to be eating really as much greens and leafy vegetables as we can, because that's got biophotonic energy and also just so much of what we need to be optimally healthy.
Now, I love that you also talk about intuition. And right now I'm working on a motivational video for my YouTube channel about intuition and how important tapping into your intuition really is. So could you share what role intuition plays in your life, and how can others strengthen their own intuitive ability?
Intuition's been my guiding force throughout my life, and it's by coming to understand how my intuition works, because I think it's different. It's such an individual thing for everyone. When we say intuition, what does that mean? I know some people feel things in their gut. Some people feel things in their heart. Maybe it's both. Some people feel things they might get heat in their feet, or clammy hands, or, tingling in the head or whatever. So intuition is, my understanding, it's my higher self, God, or intelligences that are guiding me, speaking to me through my body. And I've come to understand that my body speaks to me in quite a few different languages. So the languages of physical symptoms. So like I said, might be butterflies in the stomach, or a lightness in my heart, or like I was saying about the changes in heat, or then it's the languages like color. So there are rashes and red face and blue from cold, and the languages of dreams. So we could be spoken to through our dreams. That's another form that intuition can show up, also through like signs in nature, synchronicities. I feel like intuition speaks to me through animals and birds and number sequences and coincidences and things that happen in the external world as well as what's happening within my body. And so what I've done is I made this decision that I was going to trust whatever it is that I felt was the thing to do. I often get like flashes of knowing. Some people see pictures, so they see visions. I think that's called clairvoyance. And I think what I experience is clairsentience. So I just get a knowing of, like, I get a flash what I should do next. So I do that. And that's helped strengthen my intuition, because what I'm saying to whatever's, to God, my highest good, I'm saying, okay, I trust you. I will do that. And that's helped strengthen my intuition, and I continue to do that.
Now, you've talked about reclaiming one's sovereignty. So can you explain the concept of sovereignty and why it's crucial for individuals in today's world?
So sovereignty is paramount for me. We all are sovereign beings, although we've been convinced that we're not. And even though we think that we live in the land of the free and the brave, we're actually enslaved. And so for me, it's working out how that I have been trapped in this mind prison, and then working my way out of that. It's like extracting myself from all the prison systems, all the political systems and education, financial systems, and the religions, all these systems that have stolen our sovereignty. And so that's important to me, because if we're going to have a future for our species, then we all need to be living as sovereign beings and not be under the control of anyone, because there's no moral authority in anyone having power over anyone. No one has the right to assume any power over anyone. And that's really important to me, so that we all can stand in our full power as sovereign beings.
Now, finally, what is your vision for the future of humanity? And how can we collectively co-create a new Earth?
I envision a world where we all live in harmony with each other, with nature, with interdimensional species, with other life forms and intelligences, and our collective intention is for all of us to be flourishing. And how we do that is to realize and recognize where we can no longer participate in the systems of our own enslavement, and start to create some parallel systems where we are sovereign beings, where we are working towards a world where everyone is loved and cared for and fulfilled and living a really beautiful life, because this is an infinitely abundant planet, an infinitely abundant universe, and there's no need for the sickness and the suffering and the wars and the bloodshed. And how we can do that is by raising our own vibrational frequency, and that contributes to the raising of the collective vibrational frequency. And once that gets, and it will, and it is, and that's one of the reasons why everyone's distracted from it, that these energies, these new earth energies, are here now. So we can just tap into that, receive that light, that love at any point in time. And then the most empowering thing to do to co-create new earth is to be as human as possible every day.
Absolutely. Bella, thank you for sharing your incredible journey with the listeners and me today. Your insight into resilience, healing, and empowerment are not only inspiring, but also offer practical guidance for those who may be struggling. As we navigate the complexities of life, your message about the importance of nature, sovereignty, and community shines a light on the path towards healing and transformation. So how can listeners find copies of your books or any of your writing?
My last book, Putting on the Armor of God, the Survival Handbook for the Great Awakening in New Earth, is available on Amazon. And my next book, New Human of New Earth, will be out in a couple of months, and that's also on Amazon. I have a website, feelingbetter.naturally.love, with videos and writings and artwork. And I have a Substack, Feeling Better Naturally, with some of my writing. And the best place is my YouTube channel, where I do have some talking head videos, but I have a lot of nature videos from my snorkeling adventures, and I feel that there's benefits that can come from even watching nature videos. So I have a lot of those on my channel.
Any last words of encouragement for the listener?
Yes, this is an ascension process. The light that is pouring forth onto the planet is continuing to increase in intensity. So avail yourself to that light as often as possible overseas, and enjoy and spend as much time as possible away from electronic devices in nature, barefeeting on the earth, have picnics on the earth, just take kids camping, just be outdoors as much as possible, and health and well-being will be optimized.
I appreciate your time and the wisdom that you've imparted and sharing your resilient story. And I look forward to seeing how your work continues to empower others. Thank you for joining me on Life Jack, the Resilience Podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Rowe. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some of my experiences and some practical information that will hopefully help people to feel better, because there are a lot of people who are suffering at the moment, and there are a lot of simple ways to alleviate that. So thank you. And thank you for providing a platform and your contribution to the freedom and future of humanity. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bella Young. Be sure to join us next time for more uplifting stories and insights on resilience. Until then, keep pushing forward, embrace the journey, and remember that every setback can lead to a greater comeback. Dr. Rowe, signing off.
You've reached the end of another episode of Life Jacked, the Resilience Podcast. Connect with me at www.lifejackedpodcast.com. Don't forget to sign up to the blog so you won't miss any events or episodes. And every now and then, I'll give away free materials from my guests or from me. Remember to live, laugh, love, learn, and then repeat. See you in the next episode.